I think the reason so many people are against freckles, or those that are against freckles, it's because they can be so poorly done. You know, just like anything else, just like eyebrows can. Eyebrows can be poorly done. Eyeliner can be poorly done, right? If you do freckles, I mean, they can end up looking like dots, super unnatural, blackheads, or, big dots, and certainly not natural. There can be a really bad pattern. They can be placed really poorly. So bad design, just like a pair of eyebrows or eyeliner. And that's what was happening with the guy that Amy's removing. So not only were they bigger than they were supposed to be, and like a blue black, I didn't understand the pattern. It just looked, they were just all over the place. So I asked him, did she draw them on, or did you place them where you wanted? And his answer was no. She just laid me down and started doing them. And I was shocked. I'm like, you're serious? And he goes, yeah, she just laid me down and do them. I go, and you trusted her to do that? And he's like, yeah, I did. And I went, wow. So, they have to be well thought out and well designed, well placed, just like eyebrows and eyeliner has to be well designed and well placed. Artists should, of course, map them, draw them on. And I think just like scalp work, the fewer, space them out and do less the first session and let them heal. And then if the client wants more, then you can add additional freckles at the follow-up. And that also gives you some time to make sure that you like the tone of the color chosen. So one, they can end up looking like dots. They can be much bigger than they should be and unnatural looking, and a bad pattern. They can turn blue, bad color, turn blue or gray, right? These are all the things that can happen with eyebrows and eyeliner. And these are things that are happening with brows and eyeliner. Maybe they're not looking like blackheads or dots, but they can look super unnatural. Strokes can heal so thick and blurry. They can be not placed well. Brows can have poor design. All this can happen. Everything that I just mentioned that can go wrong with freckles, and that we see often with freckles, can also happen with brows, eyeliner, lips, with any of the procedures that we do. And for me, that comes down to the artist, the one doing them. That comes down to execution, poor execution. So is it fair to be against the tattooed freckle and the artists that choose to do the tattooed freckles and give them some, smack along the way? Because I've seen artists post freckles and they looked good. They were well done, but that artist got some crap. So is it fair to be anti-freckle and anti-freckle artist? Or should is the better way, or the more correct way to be, is anti-bad freckle, anti-freckle artist that does a bad job, don't know what they're doing. You see what I mean? That makes kind of sense. So why do they turn color, right? So, a lot of people, maybe they chose a brown. They're going in with brown. But when they come back healed, that technician or artist went too deep, just went too deep. Could have chosen the wrong color. Maybe because it's a freckle, They don't consider that they may have to add a warm modifier. Maybe freckles should not be done on skin that needs a warm modifier. On ruddy skin, pink skin, maybe we have to be as selective on who we put freckles on, as selective as we are with who we put microblading or hair strokes on. That makes sense to me. That sounds reasonable to me. Because freckles are, you hear the one thing, well, they're so exposed. They're exposed. Well, so are eyebrows. They're sitting right there on the forehead, right? They're exposed. So, but on a fresh heel, if they're healing blue or gray, that's technician error. That's either the wrong color was chosen, a modifier wasn't used if needed, they put it on the wrong skin type, or they went too deep. That's artist error. Now, let's say they were put in proper depth on the right skin tone, great skin type to put it on. Client wasn't ruddy, wasn't sun damaged, wasn't super pink. Great. The type of skin that ages pigment well. The type of skin where pigment is pretty darn stable through the aging process. And they look great. Placement was great. They look great. But now you're looking at those same set of freckles, 8, 9, 10 years down the road. Now those freckles are bigger than they should be, right? Because tattoos tend to expand in the skin as they age, if they stay in the skin long enough. Now they've turned color. Now they're blue or gray. Now they're not that pretty dark brown or, whatever, pretty tone that they were the first 2 or 3, 4 years. Now they're blue or gray. They're bigger than, they were when you put them in. So that would be because used in organic, something with black carbon in it. And what artists need to keep in mind that even the browns in an organic line, no matter what organic line, this is just the science of organic pigments, carbon is used. The darker the color in an organic line, the more carbon is needed in that formula to create that depth of tone, that darkness. So we know that carbon has the potential to last a very, very long time. Carbon can last forever. It has the potential to last forever, especially certain carbons. There's harder carbons and softer carbons. But carbons typically are going to outlast, all the other colorants in that formula. So it would behoove both the artist and especially the client if that freckle would fade out of the skin. Because anything sits in skin long enough, especially on the face, it's going to turn color. That's just the beast of facial skin. Facial skin and body skin are just so different. The vascular system with the face, the pores, and it is more exposed than body skin typically. And so I think if freckles are well placed, they're drawn on, and placed, and they're well spaced out and they're well thought out. And you put them on the right skin type. Like I said, I would not put freckles on someone that is like super ruddy, like on a skin type that has the propensity to pull gray and age a pigment gray, because we all know those skin types. So I probably would not do freckles on a skin type like that. So if we're putting them on the right skin type and they're well thought out, well placed, you're picking the right color, and you're using an inorganic, and the technique is on point, proper depth, you know how to put that pigment in such, because imagine how small a freckle is. right? So you got to put it in there without chewing up skin because it's such a small little space. Are you doing pointillism? Are you doing this? What's your technique? Well, what speed are you going to run? Because, it's just such a small, tiny little surface space of pigment. So if everything was done on point as far as execution, well, I think you're setting that freckle or freckles up for success rather than failure. Does that make sense to you, my little freckled friend?
Yes, that definitely makes sense to me. I think that you have to consider the skin that you're working on, and you want a freckle to fade because, at least in my experience, like my freckles get darker when I go in the sun, but generally they're kind of light.
Yeah.
So I think that the lighter that you have a freckle, it looks more natural anyways.
Yeah, 100%. And we do have to have the conversations with the client. The same conversations we're having with as we have with the eyebrows. Is you go in that sun, you have to sunblock them. So, yeah, so a lot of the things that can go wrong with a freckle and that I see people gripe about, or their reasons for being so hard on artists that do offer freckles or do freckles, um, their reasonings, and I see a lot of their reasonings. Well, they look like dots. They look unnatural. They're going to turn blue or gray. You're going to have a face full of blue dots. All those reasons. Similar things can happen with brows. Similar things can go wrong with brows. And so for me, it comes down to, like I said, just putting them on the right client, the right skin type, and a really super talented, thoughtful, responsible artist that really knows what they're doing and is going to make all the right choices. I would never do freckles with an organic or anything with carbon in it. Never, ever, ever, ever. I would want that. And that client may not always want freckles. They may not always want freckles. And even if they did, like I said, when ink or, pigment ink, if it sits in skin long enough, if it's allowed to last and stay in the skin long enough, it's going to get to a point where it starts to degrade in tone. It starts expanding. It starts turning color. It's not gonna stay the same color. It's just not. It's scientifically impossible. It's gonna degrade. So we're better off that the freckles leave the skin, right? So yeah. So if you're somebody doing freckles and you love freckles, but you're using organics, something with carbon, then this gives you something to consider and maybe think about. And maybe for some of you listen, there was, a couple of aha moments with this, because I think, it's like a beauty mark. What's the difference between a freckle and a beauty mark? I mean, I've been doing beauty marks almost my entire career. It's just, with freckles, they tend to be a little bit smaller, and we're doing more of them. And with a beauty mark, they tend to be a little bit bigger, and we're doing one or two. I mean, I've had clients where we just do one in a very strategic spot, and I've had, a few clients where we do two in two strategic spots. So the same strategy, the same critical thinking and strategies also have to be applied to beauty marks as well as freckles. So, yeah. But I don't really see anybody bitching about beauty marks in our industry. Like when a beauty mark is posted, we see lots of compliments and oohs and ahs, especially if it's well placed and well done. But sometimes when you see freckles being posted, you'll get the people to come out that I just don't like the freckles and make it well known, and they can be really a little hard on the artist, and maybe when it's not deserved. If it's not well done, then I guess by posting something not well done, then you open yourself up to criticism, and and sometimes not constructive criticism, sometimes just criticism with a big C.
But that's very fascinating. I never even considered like the beauty mark portion. like a beauty mark compared to the freckle? Like,
Yeah.
because I have seen a lot of love towards beauty marks, but
Yeah.
comparatively, like much more hate towards the
Towards freckles.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Same, but a little different.
In the same vein, at least.
Yeah, 100%. So I thought about that. You know, I've been thinking about that. I wanted to talk about freckles ever since, you know, Amy was removing it on that young man, because I'd never seen a pattern like that. I mean, they were on his forehead, his nose, his cheek. I mean, they were just like, I was like, oh my God. And when I had to ask him, is there every one of these a freckle, like a tattooed freckle? Are any of these natural? And he's like, no, they're all tattooed. And I went, wow. And then I asked him, well, why did you want freckles in the first place? You know, he's a young man. He's probably 27, 28, young man, adorable. And he just said he just always found him cute. And second, he just had a thing for freckles. He always wanted freckles. And so it's really unfortunate that his experience getting freckles was a bad one, because they could have been done beautifully and skillfully, and experience could have been a whole lot different, you know. So yeah, just consider using an inorganic if you're out there doing freckles and you are using organic, because we do want those to fade out of the skin. We'd like a nice slow fade, have them leave the skin, and then give the client the option of refreshing them and having them, you know, redone if so wanted, you know. And by them leaving the skin, we're at a much lower risk of them turning gray, turning blue, or a color that we do not want. A much lower risk. And you know, and if you're going to get into freckles in beauty marks, you know, when I first got into beauty marks, I suggest that you study them. It's not just a big dot. There is there is how do I say this? There's an artistic way to do them. If you really look at freckles and beauty marks, they're not the same solid color through, you know, from the edge to the middle, the entire, you know, that's how they end up looking like dots. So they do need to be done artistically and well thought out. So yeah. So, you know, you know, a lot of I think if they're well done, it can be a really great procedure, and you can make someone really super happy. And if they're not well done, well thought out, then they can be, you know, really bad, and you can really affect someone's life negatively. So there you go. All right, so let's talk about that's my freckle thing.